Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Let me just get rid of this. Oh, there we go. We are going to be continuing on with our look through the triennial Torah portion. We are dealing with Genesis chapter 32 this week. Last week we looked at 31. We in the end of chapter 31, we saw where Yaakov is going back to the land that he was promised, and in his going back, we'll see that he has to deal with some things that he left behind, that he never took care of prior. And so when we look at this chapter, we want to think about a few things. We want to think about the fact that when we have situations and things, relocating from a situation really ain't doing nothing but prolonging the situation, right? Because we see that with Jacob. He had the issues that he had with his brother, and then he just rolled out. But the issues are still there, right? So he didn't do anything about the issues. He just left, right? So we want to think about that. We want to think about how it is that we go about dealing with our trials and our tribulations in life. We want to talk about how we go about dealing with our situations in light of what we see with Jacob and how he deals with it. So there's a few things that I want to just kind of cause you to think about as we're going into the lesson today, that we'll talk about, and try to get some reflection, in our some practical application from the scriptures that we're looking at. So what we're gonna do is, I got some slides for us. I'll pull up. We'll just read through kind of verse by verse instead of reading it twice. We'll just read through verse by verse and talk as we go. So let me pull this up real quick here. Let's see here. Okay. So I gotta move my cursor over. See how we can advance this. Here we go. Who are you fighting? That's what we're going to be talking about. Who are you fighting? Genesis 32. Okay. Some painstaking things that I want you to find some pictures of some people fighting. Mm-hmm. I finally did it. Look, they got beards too. Look. Okay. All right. Enough of that. Okay, Genesis 32, verse 1. Let's read that.
And Jacob went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him.
Okay, so again, we are dealing with Yaakov going back to the land that was promised to his father, and then on the way, messengers of Elohim, it says, met him. Messengers of Elohim. So we want to look at this because of the fact that we'll see we'll see this word here in a few verses. And we want to look at this and see what this is dealing with over here. So let's see here. Messengers, that word is malak, from an unused root meaning to dispatch as a deputy, a messenger specifically of Elohim, that is an angel, also a prophet, priest, or teacher, ambassador, angel, king. The KJV translates it here as angel. Okay, so when we look at this, even in this definition, we can see where, and even according to the text over here, verse 1, this is talking about messengers of Elohim. King James says angels of Elohim went to meet Yaakov on the way. So another thing that I want to kind of cause us to think about is I'm causing us to think about many things, it seems. I don't know if you can keep track of all the things, right? But another thing that we want to keep track of is the fact of, what is this even really happening over here in the physical, or is this a spiritual thing? Or is it a mixture of both? Right? Because as we go on, we're going to see some things. And I think that when we look at these things, we can probably look at this probably in at least two ways, in terms of these being some physical interactions, or these being merely spiritual interactions, or some type of combination of both of these things happening. Because when we look at this again, this word messenger over here can be a messenger sent from the Most High, which the Most High, he's spirit, right? So his messengers, his deputies that he dispatches are going to be spirit beings, right? So we see in this situation where Yaakov's going on this mission, and the first thing that happens is the Most High sends his messengers to meet him. Read verse 2.
And when Yaakov saw them.
Oh, wait a second. I didn't know I had this over. Sorry. This is an interesting word and usage of a word, because it can be applied to both corporal or non-corporal, physical or spiritual. So again, as I'm saying, this word malak, which is translated as angel, or the scriptures says simply messenger. It could be a spiritual messenger, or it could be a physical messenger. So again, thinking about that word here kind of sets the tone for the chapter, actually. Okay, verse 2.
And when Yaakov saw them, he said, "This is the camp of Elohim." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim.
Okay, so this camp, this place of encampment of messengers of Elohim. He saw these messengers and was like, there's so many messengers that this must be like a camp of messengers. So I'm going to call it that. Right? He goes into this, he's going along this way, and so many messengers of Elohim come to this place that he now wants to name this place. Look, this word that's translated as camp can also mean locusts, right? When you think about locusts, well, I guess the connection would be like a swarm of things, right? So he saw so many of these messengers from the Most High. He had so much kind of, and we're just at this point just going to call it support, right? Because he's going into this situation where, his brother literally wanted to kill him, right? And so he gets to this place where the Most High has just surrounded him with these messengers of Elohim to support him in his goings, right? To be able to, he has an army, right? Hence an army, this word. He saw so many of these messengers that he thought it was an army of messengers, right? In this place, going with him, or at very least preparing him for where he was going in this hard situation. Because we think about it, the Most High is the one who told him to go over there in the first place, right? The Most High told him that it was time for him to leave from over there where he was, and he had to, we talked about how he went and he got all of his affairs and stuff in order with Laban and all of that. But again, it come time for him to deal with these issues that he left, and now he got to go back and face the proverbial music, right? But the Most High is not sending him back alone, right? He's sending him back with these messengers from Elohim. So much so, again, that this place over here that he's literally calling this Mahanaim, or camp or army or encampment or army of Elohim, right? Travelers or troops of Elohim. And so just think about just kind of just from a physical perspective. If you got this thing that you got to go do tomorrow, right? And it's really, you got to do it, right? You're the one that got to do the thing, and you're ready to go. You're going to do it, and then all of a sudden, all of your people, whoever your people are, all your people come, and they're there, and they're like, you could do it. If I got to be there with you while you doing it, or stand in the background, we over here letting you know that, all your people, not just some of them. Well, it don't got to be all of them, but enough of them so that you think that it's an army's worth of them, right? But this is what's going on over here, but from a spiritual perspective, right? And it's easy for us to think about, going through situations, or the opposite, going through stuff alone. How's that feel? Right? Thinking about how it would be better if somebody could just come and just help me do this or that. Right? Thinking about it from both sides. You know how messed up it is to go into a situation where you can't do it on your own and nobody's there for you, or how it would feel, or how it does feel when it is like that. Right? And so we see the positive example of that over here, but we're not talking about just our buddies. We're talking about these messengers of Elohim, right? Okay, so this is just the root of that word that's translated as camp over there. Hana. Okay, so let us hold on. I skipped a slide here. Somebody's knocking at the door. Okay, so we gotta we have to, I skipped a slide. We need to look at Hebrews 1:14. I was nodding off whenever I was putting these slides together, and put one where it was. Let me see. Hebrews, yeah, Hebrews 1. Let me see how many verses we want to read for the context. Hebrews 1. Let's go up to, let's just read 13 and 14. Hebrews 1, verse 13 and 14. I can't believe I didn't, this is so critical.
And to which of the messengers did he say, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool at your feet?
Mm-hmm.
And they not all serving spirits sent out to attend those who are about to inherit deliverance.
Okay, very good. Can you pull that up in the King KJV for me?
It says, but to which of the angels he said, at any time sit at my right hand until I make the enemies thy footstool? And they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation.
Okay, so we're talking about Yaakov going and dealing with these this troubling thing, right? And these angels, these messengers of Elohim coming to help him in his journey, right? And so when we look over here at in the book of Hebrews chapter 1, the chapter is really talking to you about Yeshua. It talks to you about his position in relation to angels, where he is. And it's really not talking about what we're talking about over here, but it kind of just mentions it as like a side kind of a thing, because the context is really dealing with the position of Yeshua, where he is, where he stands. But it just happens to give us some information over here where it says, are they talking about the angels? Like it talked about Yeshua and his greatness, where he is in chapter verse 14. Are they not all angels? That is, are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? It's not talking about, that's not the context, right? It's not the point of it, but it gives us some information about what angels do like. And over here it's saying that they, it's kind of just like saying, as a matter of fact, are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister to them who shall be heirs to salvation? So it's telling us something. Those that are heirs to salvation have access to these ministering spirits. And we see example of that with Yaakov over here. Okay, so back now to the slides. Who gonna inherit? Who gonna inherit? Matthew 19 and 29.
And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life.
Okay, so over there in Hebrews 1 and 14, talk about these ministering spirits that were going to minister to those who were going to inherit deliverance or salvation. And then so we're thinking about, well, who's that? Who's the ones that's going to minister, that's going to inherit deliverance or inherit salvation? And over here, Yeshua is saying, I don't know if that's red letters in somebody's Bible or whatever, if Yeshua said this or not.
Yeah.
Oh, that's red letters?
That's him speaking. Yeah.
Oh, that's red letters right there, right? So it says, everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or fathers or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake, those are the ones that shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Right? Those people who sacrifice, not just sacrifice, because there's all kind of sacrifices going on, right? But who sacrificing for Yeshua's namesake? If you're doing that, he said over there, you're going to receive 100-fold, and you shall inherit everlasting life. Well, guess what? If inheriting everlasting life isn't that deliverance that they're talking about over in Hebrews chapter 1 and 14, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're able to get to the place where we're able to sacrifice for Messiah in his name, then we know that we're going to be the ones that's going to inherit deliverance or salvation or everlasting life. But also, guess what? With that, we have access to these ministering spirits, right? These angels that come and help us. That's what that said over there in Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 14. It was talking about these spirits. They're just these ones that go and minister to the people who's going to have salvation. Like comparing them to Yeshua. Yeshua's the king. Then you got these angels, and they're just ministers to those who will receive salvation, right? It said it kind of just on the side, but that's like it's saying a lot over there, ain't it? Okay, let's look at Matthew 25:32 through 34.
And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from the other. And the shepherd, as the shepherd separates his sheep from the goats, and he shall set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Okay, so yeah. So over here, I always want to think about this verse, Matthew 25 and 32 through 34, when we think about the idea of the separation of the sheep and the goats. It's interesting because it's not like it's saying separating the sheep from the pigs, right? Or the sheep from the giraffes or the mountain lions, right? They're goats. Goats are clean. Goats are good to eat. Goats are considered something that's a clean animal. So you would think about a goat, right? You would think about a goat that as something that would be there, right? Even you wouldn't think about it when it talks about the wheat and the tares, right? Because the tares is something that's obviously these thorns and these thistles that's growing up with the stuff that you planted, the stuff that's growing up with the stuff that you planted that you obviously want to get out. But if you take it out all at once, you're going to mess around and pull out the good stuff at the same time. So you kind of got to let them grow together. And then when you harvest, you take them out and then do the separating, right? But over here, with the sheep and the goats, it's like, what's up with the goats? Like the goats, we mess with goats. But whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, when we see the Most High, when Yeshua returning, this king, when he returns, he's going to make a separation, and he's going to get rid of the one, and he's going to keep the other. And the ones that he keeping, those is the one that's going to inherit, right? This kingdom of Elohim, right?
Can I be part of the Persian?
What you mean? This?
Yeah, that part.
Well, this is judgment here. This part here is judgment.
I just want to say because, as you know, at verse Matthew 21:7, where he goes in to explain, many will say to me in that day, and
yeah. I don't
caliber people.
I don't know what you mean by purging, but I think that when you reference those verses, I think that does go along with this verse, because
that's what I'd rather
when
say.
you talk about goats, just from looking at a goat, it's not something that you would think of in terms of like, it's not like I said, it's not like a pig. It's not like these things that are these defiling animals. It's something that you would think is good, just like somebody who's working miracles or somebody who's doing these things that's for the Most High. And so understanding that dynamic is thinking about the quality of your relationship, right? The quality of your relationship, because it's easy to go and do things for the Father. It's easy to go and do things for the Father, right? But what's the quality really of your relationship? And I think that's the difference. When you think about goats, now if we want to think about it, goats are these little stubborn animals, right? If you got goats, you definitely got to have fences, right? And they got to be high fences, because they jump over the things. They always trying to escape, little stubborn little things, right? They got rise, right? They got ups, as we would say, right?
and they'll poke you.
And they'll knock your butt down. Look, I didn't hardly want to look at this thing. It was so terrible. This goat. It was in one of these island places, right? And there was this poor lady. Was she couldn't get away, and this goat, and he backed himself up. But goats, they'll just do that. They'll knock your kids down. They don't care. They just little stubborn, little rebellious little things. These goats.
But when I think about sheep and the goats, I always go back to that Baphomet head for some reason.
Well,
I just go back to it because they might have picked and choose that on purpose just to throw it in my face.
Well, I think that I'm saying that it has to be something that's deeper than just the surface thing, right?
Yeah.
Because again, when we think about, it's not like thorns and thistles, or pigs. It's a goat. Ain't nothing like some curried goat. Right? That stuff is good, right? But I'm saying that, but we got to be able to look deeper into the situation. So again, when we talk about the ones that's going to inherit, is when we think about the sheep now, Yeshua, he refers to himself as the shepherd. Right?
And he said, my sheep hear my voice.
The sheep, right? You want to be that one who's hearing his voice. You want to be that one who's going where he is leading you. You don't want to have to sit up here and kind of trick the animals to do what you want for them to do. That's kind of what you got to do with the goat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the part we want to think about is the quality of the relationship, to make sure that we're the ones that inherit. Now, again, what we want to think about is the fact that we're not talking about receiving the inheritance. We're talking about the ones who are going to receive it, the ones that are looking forward to receiving it. Those are the ones that's getting the ministering spirits. We're not talking about somebody that's already done crossed over to eternity. We're talking about somebody in the here and now who's moving forward towards deliverance and salvation, everlasting life, who's moving in that direction. That one has currently, right now, these ministering spirits, right? That's the part that we want. First of all, we got to get to that place of knowing that we're the ones who, have the promise attached to us. But once we know that, we got this other thing over here, which is these messengers of Elohim, these ministering spirits that we have access to, that are able to help us through situations.
So did you say the goats don't have that because they practice lawlessness?
Well, in that situation, as far as comparing the sheep and the goats, yes, the goats wouldn't be that.
Because you said, of course, it ain't no pigs.
Or
animals too.
Or now, we could think about let's read Romans 8:14 through 17 and get to the or.
Yeah, or.
Read that.
For as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim, these are the sons of Elohim. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirits that we are the children of Elohim, and the children also heirs, truly heirs of Elohim, and co-heirs with Messiah. If indeed we suffer with Him, in order that we also be exalted together.
Hold on. Now, I've probably read this hundreds of times, if not thousands of times. Why is that last part jumping out at me just today? That if part. If indeed we suffer with him,
Right.
in order that we also be exalted together. Is there like a caveat put at the end of this thing? If indeed we suffer with him. First of all, at the beginning, for as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim, those are the ones that's called the sons of Elohim. So there got to be that leading, first of all. Well, first of all, a couple verses up, if you don't have the Spirit, you're none of his to begin with. But then where we started looking at over here, once you have the Spirit, you got to be led by the Spirit in order to be classified as the son of Elohim. But then now at the end over there, it's saying, if indeed we suffer with him, which goes back to this whole sacrificing, making sacrifices for his name, qualifying you. So this bears witness with the other thing we talked about over there in the other verse in terms of sacrificing for his name is what says that we are able to even receive everlasting life. But back to the or thing over before, right? As far as the goats and the sheep, the goats, we could say the goats maybe received the Spirit, but they wasn't following the Spirit, right? They wasn't led,
right?
So we could put them in either category, either because it don't matter. It don't matter if you got the Ruach, but the Ruach ain't leading you in righteousness. It ain't doing you a bit of good. The word just makes you just be a goat, right? That looks like something that's clean, but really you're a goat, right? So you could be we could say a sheep is the ones that have the Ruach, and we could say the goat's the one that got the Ruach. But the sheep is the one that's being led by the Ruach, and the goat is not. So it could either just be no Ruach at all or not walking in the Ruach. Don't matter. One, you're not in a better position to have the Spirit, but don't walk in it than somebody who don't have it at all. Y'all in the exact same situation, right?
Yeah.
Would that be the same as when they say many are called, few are chosen? Just as far as everyone gets that call, but
Yeah. Well, many people get the call.
right.
I don't even know if you can say everyone gets the call. Many people get the call.
Right.
But then out of that number,
Right.
then you got a few from them.
Right.
So that's how it is. Yeah. It's a troubling thing especially when we, begin to walk with Messiah, when we look around at our families, for instance, right? And we see, and we want and desire for our families to come to the knowledge of the truth. But sometimes, your whole family's not going to be there. In fact, we just looked at the verse right over there when Yeshua is sitting up there talking about leaving brothers and mothers and sisters and houses and sacrificing for my namesake. So just when we look at that, you talking about Yeshua talking to people who are going to be his followers, and then those followers, their family's not coming with them. It's just part of the thing, right? And so again, but what we want to bring out Over here is just the fact that, you know, there has to be a certain quality of your relationship, not just to say that you have this generic relationship with the master, but there's some quality to it. And the quality involves, you know, that leading part. And without that leading part, there's no point in it, right? Because over here it's telling us we have to be actually led by the Spirit. The Spirit has to be an integral part in our moving. Otherwise, you know, we're manifesting actually the opposite of what our reality should be. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear. Right? And so that's what happens, ain't it? When we go through life, and instead of being able to trust in the Most High and Yeshua and all that He's provided for us, we fear our situation, and then we attack the situation based on that fear instead of resting in the Most High, who said He's going to be able to deliver us through these things over here. But our actual reality says that He didn't give us that spirit of fear, right? We're supposed to be above that. I'm saying fear of anything else outside of the Most High, right? Because that, you know, that's the fear that we got. We got to have that fear, right? But as far as anything else, you know, we can't move in a spirit of fear because we've been delivered from that. And so going back to Genesis, chapter 32, when Yaakov is going into this situation now, and he has all of this spiritual support coming, it's supposed to kind of give him some sense about himself, where he's able to go forward in strength, right? That's the point of it, these ministering spirits, right? Okay, one more. I guess I have another one here.
And all the precepts.
Yeah. Daniel 9:21-23. Read that.
It says, while I was still speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in a vision at the beginning, came close to me in swift flight about the time of the evening offering. And he made me understand and talked with me and said, "Oh, Daniel, I have now come forth to make you wise concerning understanding. At the beginning of your supplications, a word went out, and I have come to make it known, for you are greatly appreciated. So consider the word and understand it, and understand the vision."
Okay, so we see Daniel over here who's talking about this situation. Over here, Gabriel's the angel, though. Gabriel's the angel. He's a messenger of Elohim. While I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, it calls him a man over here, whom I seen in the vision. So he was visited in a vision in this spirit realm by Gabriel, and now he's seeing him over here as a man. But look what's going on, right? And he made me understand and talk with me, right? And said, I have now come forth to make you wise concerning understanding. He's encouraging him in his situation. He's strengthening him in his situation so that he's able to go forth in strength, right? And so there's two things going on. First of all, the idea that we see what Gabriel, the angel, is doing with Daniel in terms of encouraging and supporting him and building him up and causing him to be ready to go forward and do whatever it is that he got to go over here and do, right? But also, we see this duality thing going on over here where is he a man or is he a spirit being? Right? No, I'm good, thanks. but he's showing up as a man, but we know that he's a spirit. We know he's an angel. But you have this spirit being who's concerned about what's going on in the physical, and he's preparing him from a spiritual perspective to encounter the physical. He got some real things that he got to go out here and do. But it takes that spiritual support to be able to go out here and do it, though. And that's what's going on over here, right? But we see kind of these worlds kind of colliding, the spirit realm and the physical realm. And how necessary they are, right? How they intertwine with each other.
I got one.
Go ahead.
This is one of my favorites. That line up with this is the 2 Kings chapter 6. Let's see, I'm gonna start to get a little bit of context. I'll start at 12. I think we can get it. It's and it says, and one of his servants said, none. 2 Kings 6 verse 12. Now this is I'm reading it in the King James. It'll still come through. And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet that is in Israel telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. And he said, go and spy where he is, that he may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he thither horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and compassed the city about. So this is where Israel was. And when the servant of the man of Yahweh was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? Anybody don't know, host means army, where it says it right there. Verse 16, and he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And verse 17, and Elisha prayed and said, Yahweh, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots and fire round about Elisha. So he didn't, they was fearful of that army that compassed them. And Elisha prayed for the young man that was with him, because they didn't know the power. Elisha knew. He knew the spirit and the power of the Most High. So he prayed that the young man could see it, because it's spiritual. It's the power that's backing you up. We can't always see it, but it's there. For those of us that's walking this thing, that power is there. So I just wanted to pull out an example.
Yeah, very good. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we have to be forever mindful of, is the fact that we have this connection now with the spirit realm, and it's necessary for us to as the scripture said, to be led by the spirit in our doings. It's so easy just to get into our little mode, this physical mode, where all we're doing is just dealing with reacting to life and moving according to how the flesh and carnality is leading us. And again, when I say that, and I'm not just saying that carnality is just in and of itself something that's just intrinsic. Well, it is kind of intrinsically wicked. But I'm saying every time I'm saying carnality, I just mean the flesh, right? And earthly physical things, not necessarily that those things in and of themselves are wicked. But when we allow the flesh to be our motivator, that's the wicked part, because Yeshua, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Most High, is supposed to be our motivator, right? The thing that's leading us and guiding us. Yeah, so we have to be aware of this connection, because guess what? The evil spirits that's going around don't care about whether you acknowledge them or not.
Right.
Don't care. You don't have to believe that there's spiritual wickedness all around in order for it to be affecting your situation.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right? In order to participate in the Holy Spirit, there's faith that's involved in that, and there's a connection that you have to make to the Most High in order to benefit from that. But guess what? Them evil spirits get on you whether you want them there or not.
Yeah.
You don't got to ask for them. You don't got to believe it'll.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's even more powerful when you don't believe.
In that regard, yeah.
Yeah, they got more power over you. Yeah, exactly. You don't got no armor, nothing to protect
Ain't
you.
nobody asking. Ain't nobody asking you nothing.
Nope. You just affected. You just caught out there.
Now with the Holy Spirit, with the Ruach HaKodesh, is a whole other situation where you're given power over these other things.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to want to participate.
Right.
But on the other side, it don't matter. You could be an unwilling participant. It don't matter.
Yeah.
That makes me think of something, it's so interesting. And I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier. But yeah, like I'm driving, I drive the men to and from work. So we're coming back. There's one guy. Every way I go, he's just saying go a different way. Right? So he's saying go this way, and I'm like, I'm not going that way, right? And then so there's no traffic because he's saying we're going to get caught traffic. So we're going, and then so I go to Fort Pitt Bridge. Oh, that's so stupid. Why are you going this way? This, that, and the other, right? And then the person I was sitting beside him jumps into it too. And so I'm just realizing now it was probably spirits. And they were just, and then they just linked up, and now there's two of them like just trying to trouble me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just like vexing me.
Yep.
And then I said, like, this must be a test. I said it loud so they can hear. I said, this must be a test. I said, this gotta be like two little demons trying to trouble me to see how I'm going to deal with the situation. I was joking, but it was really the truth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have no defense for it because they don't even realize what's going. Like we got back the fastest they had ever got back to the office, 24 minutes from Lincoln, and they complained the whole way.
Exactly. Yep.
Demons.
Yep.
Yeah.
They was waiting for there to be traffic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
They was waiting.
If there was
Every
been,
turn.
if I had got stopped behind one car,
Right.
Mhm.
Just waiting.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny. That's an example of what we talking about over here in terms of the fact that as far as evil and wickedness and these evil spirits, it unless you have that protection on you, you're open prey to whatever wants to be on you. And it's the exact opposite. It's not as if righteousness just comes and just overtake you without you wanting it to be there. But wickedness does that. Right? That's what wickedness does. because it just feeds off of your carnality, off of your selfish desires, and so but the ruach is selfless. The first part is the same self, but it's not ish, it's let's, right? Right. And so, we have to understand these things that's going on. We sit up here and I'm looking at you like, I'm like, but me, not you, I'm just saying people, right? And I'm sitting up here mad at you because you this or that and you doing all of this, but it ain't even you. It ain't you. It's some spirits that's on you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to be able to think about things in this way.
Yeah.
Because that's reality. You gotta know who you fighting. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about who are you fighting. That's what we're talking about. Right? Okay, so let's look over here at these slides. Something to think about is the fact that many times in scripture we see these anthropomorphic situations, whether it be angels or Yah himself. And I think when we look back at the early part of Yaakov's journey, we find some interesting clues. Anthropomorphic is when we see characteristics given to a thing that don't go along with the thing, like like we watch cartoons, animals don't talk, right? So that's anthropomorphic when you see animals talking like humans. When we're talking about it in terms of the scripture, anthropomorphic thing is when we think about the Most High in terms of a man, because he's not a man, but he relates to us as men so that we're able to understand him better, right? Okay, so let us let's go back, rewind the tape, Genesis 28, 11 through 14.
And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set, and he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in the place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham, your father, of the Elohim of Yitzchak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all your clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed.
Okay, very good. So, all right. So, hold on. Yeah, read 15 too. Just read 15.
And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you.
Okay, very good. So he said over here at the verse 15 in the scriptures version, it says, and see. But in the King James, it probably says, behold. But in the Hebrew, is giving you kind of this exclamation point, like lo. Like not low as in no, but low as in the English term of like exclamation point. Like yo, like behold, right? I am with you. He's letting the Most High is letting Yaakov know, and this is at the very beginning, right? Whenever he's first getting ready to go on the run from Esau in the first place. I am with you and shall guard you wherever you go. And guess what? I'm going to bring you back. So if he's getting ready to go, there's some tumultuous situations ahead of him. He done already said he's gonna come back. I'll bring you back. So, hey, what could happen? There's nothing that can happen. Even if a whole bunch of bad stuff happened, he still know he's coming back. He still know he's gonna make it through. This is what the Most High is saying, right? And so he should have been providing with him with a certain level of confidence to go through his situation. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but I'm saying us looking at it should be able to have that realization of what's going on. Because, you know, our life and carnality is so strong because of the fact that we can see it and touch it. It's tangible.
Right.
It's right here. Right? You could sit up here and say that you're going to be here for me, but at the end of the day, until you're actually here for me, I don't know. Right? But over here, you talking about the Most High, where in general, you know, well, it tells us he don't have no form or fashion, right? He's formless. He's without form, right? And so we're forced to have to sit up here and trust in this thing that we're not able to see. And then we got all these things that's against us that we're able to see and touch and feel and smell and taste. All of these things, right? But in spite of all of that, the Most High is saying, look, I'm here with you, right? And so he's given us this spiritual backing that's helping us to move in this physical realm. And it's supposed to actually do something, right? And something to think about, just as an example, whenever we looking forward at Moshe with the striking the rock situation, the people came against him. He was all bent out of shape because of these stiff-necked, rebellious Israelites, as Israel is, right? That's how you know you're Israel, you rebellious. When you ain't rebellious, you ain't Israel. Because we rebellious out here, right? So he's fed up with these people, and then the Most High comes, makes an appearance to Moses and to Aaron. He has this intimate meeting with the Most High, which, when you think about it, is supposed to chill out all of that stuff that happens. All of the bickering and the feelings that he had towards the people should have been erased because he went before the Most High. But what actually happens is he has his meeting with the Most High, he leaves and goes back to the people, and he's still mad with the people, and then he strikes the rock. And then because he did that, now he can't go into the kingdom, right? And so he didn't allow his intimacy, his level of intimacy to change his physical situation. That's the whole thing the Most High is trying to do with his people the whole time. He's trying to get his people to understand that we have to allow our spiritual reality be able to affect our physicalness. And with Moses, who was the one who spoke with the Most High face to face, that was the worst thing he could have did, because he's supposed to be the one that's closest to the Most High in the first place. He should have had that part figured out. Whatever them people was able to bring him to at that time, by the time he went and kind of reset with the Most High, he was supposed to be ready to go and attack the world, but he wasn't. And then the Most High said, "You failed. You ain't going into the land." Period. And so when we look back over into here, we see Yaakov with what he's getting ready to get into. You know, he's told all of these things. He gets all of these promises that he gets from the Most High. That was, you know, his father's promises before. You made all these promises to my fathers already. Now the Most High is making the promises to you. And you're on your way out the door. You're going out to this land and do whatever you're going to do. Guess what? I'm going to bring you back to this place. Wow. Right? So he should have been ready. He should have been ready. right? And he should have known no matter what happened. Now, granted, when we think about this, this is only 32. It's just a few chapters before, right? 28. We're at 32. This is 28. But in between chapters is like 20 some years, right? Because he goes off, he does his 14, he does his years. After that, he works for wives, he works for cattle, right? With Laban, right? Years done went past. And so now he got to go back. But this is how he starts, though. I'm going to bring you back. And now it's time to go back. And he got this little refresher meeting that he has with the angels over there at the beginning of the chapter. But I wanted for us to, in regards to chapter 28, when we think about the idea of this whole ladder situation, right, where he sees this ladder going up to heaven and these angels that's going up and down. This, everywhere he goes, he's having this spiritual kind of connection with the Most. He stay naming a place after his meetings that he's having with the Most High. He has a connection. And when we look over here, we see this whole thing about this whole ladder situation. And I think that it helps for us to be able to understand that we have that same connection, right? We have access to these angels going up and down the ladders, right? For our help, right? And just like Yaakov had it, whether he realized the fullness of the situation or not, we looking back, have to be able to gain a greater level of understanding on these things and knowing that we have a help in the Ruach HaKodesh in us, and also these ministering spirits also to help us to move forward. Okay, so on his way out, he is told, I will bring you back. I am with you. He says, I will guard you. So he has this spiritual protection that is getting him through these physical problems, right? And so this whole criteria, this whole thing that's going on is not a new thing. It's something that's been going on since day one. As long as the Most High has been dealing with people, he's been spiritually strengthening his people to go and deal with physical things, right? It's not as if, these lives that we live, these lives coincide with one another. It's not like you got your spiritual life over here and your physical life over here, but your spiritual life helps you and strengthens you to go out and attack the physical realm, right? It's supposed to strengthen you and lead and guide you, not in floating around in this hyper spiritual existence, right? But it empowers you to go and deal in this physical realm, like we're in a physical world. But we have to allow the spirit in us to actually change us. And when we look at Yaakov, we see, to what degree it did. I think the key that we need to get out of this is that is there for us to tap into. And we got to tap into it. And so verse 1 of chapter 32, Jacob is reminded of the presence and protection of the Most High. Because like I said, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since the Most High said to him that I'm going to bring you back. But he gives him this experience that's similar to the experience that he had when he had that rock as a pillow and he had that spiritual kind of encounter with the ladder and so forth, and now he finally must face his fears, which is dealing with his brother that's always been wanting to kill him, right? And so he got to go back and deal with the thing that he did. And so, this is another aspect of the whole situation. It don't matter the level of relationship that Yaakov has established with the Most High. He did this thing in the physical world that he got to deal with. The Most High, he didn't allow him to kind of just be done with it and never have to deal with it again, just because of the fact that he chooses, or he was chosen as one to walk in righteousness. And so we have to remember when we go and live in our life, just because you are walking in another direction, it don't mean that you don't have to deal with the seeds that you've sown whenever you sowed them. You still got to deal with those things, right? And then however many years later that this was, Yaakov is showing us that even though, he's living this life and he has a spiritual connection with the Most High, he still got to go back and deal with, what happened. Even though when we think about it, that was a promise, right? He was promised to get the thing, and he got it, the way he got it, but right or wrong, he got to deal with the consequences, right, of his actions. So it don't seem like you can escape those things that you're running from. Jacob couldn't escape them. If he couldn't escape them, I don't think we could escape them either. You reap what you sow. That's what you should have said that. It's a true statement. And then whatever seeds that we sow, at whatever part of your relationship that you're in with the Most High, you at some point is going to have to deal with those seeds that you've sown. And so the thing about it is that it's not like the Most High just let whatever happen. He's there with him, right? But Yaakov has to be able to recognize the fact that the Most High's with him in the situation, and it doesn't really matter, about what his brother would do if he's able to trust in what the Most High is able to do for him. And I think that's how we have to deal with, kind of making some type of practical application out of this situation. We can sit up here and have gotten ourselves into all types of wickedness and sown seeds of wickedness all over the place. And just because the Most High, calls us out of wickedness, don't mean that he's not going to let the reaper come back on you based on those things that you've sown. But what he will do is be with you and get you through the situation. And that's what we can see over here with Yaakov. Because it's kind of like a mixed situation where it's the thing that was promised to him, but he went about getting it in a roundabout way. So, there's repercussions that come as a result of it. And so let's go back to Genesis 32 and see what's going on over here. Read verse 3.
Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the field of Edom.
Okay, so now we get back into the story over here, and there's things going on. That messenger's over there is our word malcha, right? That's a word that was the angels before. So before it's angels, over here it's messengers. It means deputies or people that's dispatched or what have you. But I'm saying, what's he doing over here? What men did he send over to Esau? We seen him work for wives. We seen him have children. We seen him work for cattle. But he was like a servant. But now he has these messengers that are
He done came up.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is that how he came up? What's he doing over here? What did he send over, or who did he send to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, the field of Edom?
Oh, so you saying maybe it's the messengers.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
I'm saying when we look at the story, I'm not sure where the men come from. Where'd they come from? If there was so many men to choose from with Laban and them, why Jacob have to do all that work? He could just had some of them other people doing the work. Where'd they come from? Is that what he's? Or maybe they just didn't talk about them. They was around, they didn't talk about them. And we talking about actual physical messengers that's going out.
mm-hmm.
I'm saying that when we look at that word messengers, it could mean, we see how it means spirit beings. We see how them spirit beings could come and even look like men. We think back to Lot, those angels came.
Yeah.
Well,
There was 3 men. There's 3 men and there was the Most High. 3 men, but we know that it was the Most High and 2 angels. But when they went over to the land, the people was able to physically see them and they thought they was men. So I'm saying that it could be men, but it could be angels.
Yeah.
That he's saying, go before me and deal with my situation that I know that I got to deal with.
They saw him, they was flipping like, who is these new people?
What was you gonna say?
Oh, I was just going to say, what it tells him to say in verse 5 is he has men servants.
Yeah. So here.
You're talking about Esau, verse 5.
Okay, so we're gonna get down to those verses, right? So the first messengers were angels. We've seen that. But what about these ones? That's what we trying to figure out. What about these ones? Verse 4, read verse 4.
He commanded them, saying, say this to my master Esau, your servant. Jacob said this, and I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now.
Okay, so when we look at what he's saying now, he's doing some convincing to Esau through the messengers, whoever the messengers are, whether they angels or men.
So who was telling them this? Yaakov?
This is Yaakov talk. This is what his message is to the angels to give to Esau.
Yeah.
He's talking to the messengers at this point.
So he's giving them a message and say to them, say this to my master he's saying, say this to my master. He wants to make sure that Esau knows you're my master. I'm your servant, Yaakov, right? He wants that message to be made plain. You the master, I'm the servant. You're over me, right? You're a big brother, right? Don't get that mixed up. And he says, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. He wants him to know that all of that time that he was there, he was a gur in the land with Laban, right? Which is a stranger or a sojourner or one that dwells alongside or an inhabitant, as if to make a separation between whatever it was that Laban had and what he had. Not to say that he went over there and just got rich with Laban.
Yeah.
He was a servant to Laban. So he's trying to let it be known, I was over here with the forefathers all this time, but don't look at my come up because I was over there struggling, right? So he's trying to kind of downplay his whole situation. You're the master, I'm the servant. Even though I was with our kin folks, I was never part of them. I was always just a sojourner. I was just a gur, right? A sojourner. And so he's given these messengers, whatever they are, whether they're angels or men, we don't know that. Whatever they are, he's given them this message to go and take to Esau in order to kind of cool Esau down with his anger, because Esau, he's out for blood, right? He wants revenge, big payback, right? Moshe. Okay, so when we look over here, we see, so I'm saying that again, when we start off, the messengers is angels, right? There's no doubt about it. The messengers is angels. And we know as those that are moving forward to inherit deliverance, those who have a right relationship with the Most High have access to angels for your protection. So over here, he could either be sending physical people over there with this message, or he could be sending angels over to go and talk to his brother Esau and calm his spirit.
Being as though it's like literally directly right after he notices the cam, it just seems to me like it like you said, it could be spirit, it could be physical, but being as though it's like directly after, it seems like it's more on a spiritual.
It do seem like that, don't it?
Yeah.
Not, but it's not like kind of overtly saying it, but it's using the same word, which that don't necessarily mean anything because that word's kind of used interchangeably. But we see in examples, even when we look at Gabriel, Daniel saw Gabriel as a man, but he also saw him as a spirit in his vision.
Right.
And so these things are kind of be intertwined, but I'm saying that the way that we can look at it, and then also based on what we found out in Hebrews, is that we are able to move in this way when we're going into a situation. Most High, please send some spirits over to them people and just chill them out. Because I'm about to go into the situation and I don't know what they're going to do. But I know that you're able to protect me by any means. Right? And so it could be that. Or it could just be, send my goons over there and handle it from a physical way. But he's not doing that though. He's in all humility. Like he's like, master. Like, say this, say master, you're his master, and say this, I'm your servant, right? And then and I was just a tag along with Laban. Like I had to sit up here and work all of these years. I was just a sojourner with him all of this time just until now. Right? He's like on the humble.
Also, too, even I mean, I can not specifically say, but even if it was a physical manservant that he did send out, every man got a spirit.
Yeah.
And even the scriptures say that words are spirit. So like just having maybe him having that meeting, the spirit came upon him to move the way he moved, even if it was meant to say those things, that still moved Esau's spirit. Yeah. Keeping it all spiritual. Because I mean, it can all, so whether it's the unseen spirits that, but either way. Yeah. I'm just putting that
so you can really look at this. So that's why I started talking about this way in the first place, is that when you look at this whole meeting, this whole chapter, you can look at it from a pure physical perspective, with kind of sprinklings of spiritual things, or you could look at it from a spiritual perspective. But either way, the spiritual is affecting the physical realm. And whether we say that as men who got the spirit that I placed on the men to go out and transfer that spirit to the person who you sent the message to, whether it's that way or it's just purely just vibes. I'm just putting vibrations out there. Like whatever it is, the thing that we have to recognize the fact that these spiritual things, this spiritual protection is allotted for you. And we have to be able to take advantage of these things. And right, so I'm saying that looking at this, I'm saying that, you know, I think that Yaakov did indeed remember what the Most High said to him, and he's taking advantage of what the protection that the Most High provided for him in wisdom, because he knows that he got to deal with his brother, right? And so in wisdom, he's taking advantage of this protection that is provided for him, and he's dealing with it in this humble way, right? Well, how he's sitting up here worded this thing is just is wise,
Right.
And so I don't know if we can see this, but I put up here the ancient Hebrew for the word stranger. The picture of the gimel is a foot, and so that foot means to walk, and then the resh is a picture of a man's head, and so you have this walking man. So he was saying to the angels to relay to the to his brother that he was just this man that was walking alongside with Laban, not as if, I mean, I guess the if you think about kind of you go off and you are with this big family somewhere, this big rich family somewhere, and you go and be with them for all this time after, by the way, as Yaakov did with Esau, received the blessing. So he gets this spiritual blessing from his father where he's going to go and succeed. And then he goes and bees with these successful people and then come back. Like you would be expected to come back and have like, well, I mean, I guess he did kind of come back with all of these riches or whatever. But but I guess in the context of what he's trying to do is kind of lessen the blow, lessen the obvious kind of thing, because he's coming back and he don't kind of want to put it all in his face. But also, when we continue to read, we see that he shares. He's willing to share, and he wants to share the blessing that he went over there and received. It's not as if he's flaunting it like, yeah, I went over here and I got all these men, and I got all these babies, and I got all of these wives and handmaids and camels and goats and all these different animals and riches and things. And look what you got. You just out here. I don't even know what you got. He's not doing that, right? Okay, go ahead and read some of these.
And I have bulls and donkeys, flocks, male and female servants, and I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes.
Okay, right. So he's telling them all the things that he got, but he's telling them all of this for the purposes of finding favor in the eyes of his brother, right? Okay, keep going.
So the messengers returned to Yaakov, saying,
Hey,
we came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Yaakov was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels, into two groups. And he said, if Esau comes to the one group, and strikes it, then the other group which is left shall escape.
Okay, so we see over here now, he was going blindly. Yaakov was going blindly, knowing his brother was trying to kill him. He's going blindly into the situation, not knowing exactly what's what. But then now we find out over here, Esau, he got all these men, and he mean business, right? And so he's taking things into account now and saying, well, look, I'll sit up here. If you're gonna come and take out my people, you take them people out, and we'll stand. We'll as soon as y'all get taken out, then we'll make a run for it.
So he
Right.
put out a scapegoat here. Y'all do it for me.
Right? And so it says that he was greatly afraid and distressed. And so again, when we think about this in its totality and understand what's going on, then how it's actually able to relate to our situation, we have to be able to look at this and say to ourselves, how do we look at this thing, and then how do we do what he did or better than what he did in a situation that has to do with our situation, right? And so again, when we think about this idea, we can't fear the things that we're getting ourselves into more than what, the fear that we have for the Most High. And so, we have to be able to, I don't know if this is the wisdom that the Ruach told him to do in terms of how he should move over here. But I'm saying that what we have to do in our Esau situations is be able to take our situation. Okay, Father, look, he got 400 men over there. Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to attack the situation? Do I just turn around? Do I keep going? Like, are you going to strengthen me? Like, we have to be able to consult with the Father in our movements. Like, we can only assume that that's what he did. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't do that. Maybe this is his defense mechanism, saying, well, I'm just gonna sacrifice my whatever, these animals, and as soon as I see them getting sacrificed, I'm just gonna turn the other way. When you think about that in its fullness, that seems like it's fear-based. It don't seem like it's faith-based, because the Most High already told him, I'm gonna get you to the other side. If Esau's in the middle of where he's at and the other side, he got to go through Esau. So there ain't no turning around. He got to go forward. So just kind of looking at the situation, it seems as if, I don't know if it is. It seems like it's fear-based.
I think it is. My view is to me, under the assumption, to me, it's obviously fear-based, because I can relate that to a lot of incidents, where we call ourselves common pleas, because we know we did something wrong. Go all the way back to when his mother told him to do this and do that, and he knew he was playing his brother. He knew he was pretending to be his brother. He knew what he was doing. And from that event, Esau was upset. And ever since then, he was upset. So he's fearful now. Like, I know I did this wrong, et cetera, et cetera. That's like when, not to go off subject, but it's still subject about Frank. Like, take, for instance, your average crack fan. Okay? When they get high, they go to the window and panic and get afraid and scared. Like, I had to tell my brother, I said, man, that's because you are grimy. You getting scared because you know you did a lot of people wrong, and you thinking they're coming to get you. When they ain't even thinking about you. Well, in his case, he's not like that, but still he did something wrong. So he's fearful when he copped the plea, and instead of being unfearful by listening to the commands of Yah, he leaned on his own understanding and tried to mix it together and work it out by saying, well, I'm just send them up here first. In other words, I'm gonna sacrifice them if this go down, and I'm jetting. Instead of, like you said, listen to God, say, I'm gonna get you through this.
Yeah. And so, we have to be able to, and again, it's always a hard thing to do when we are relying on safety and protection that we can't see. But the thing that we're being saved from and protected from, we can see. Like I can see the thing that's coming to harm me and to hurt me. That's something that's tangible and I can see it and it's right over there. But the thing that's going to protect me, I can't see all the time. Sometimes you can, but sometimes you can't. Right? And so it takes faith to be able to, in spite of the fact that you can't necessarily see the way through, is to keep moving forward. And then as you move forward, the way becomes known to you together. Now we could look at that and say the way that was made to him to go was this whole idea of, you know, putting these things before him. Maybe him coming, maybe his brother coming and getting all of this animals and stuff that you put in the front, maybe that calms his situation. You know, maybe there was some with, like, we don't know. But I'm saying, you know, for what we're able to look from the situation is that, you know, we can't always see that way out. But, you know, putting ourselves into the situation, we have to remember that the Most High said, you're at point A and I'm going to get you to point B. And so you may not know how you getting from A to B, but what you do know is that you're getting to B. You're not going back to A. And so we have to be able to move forward in those things which we already know the Most High has began to move us forward in, and not move backwards and not move sideways, but move forward and trust in what he said he was going to do. Okay, let's keep on reading over here, verse 9.
Jacob said, O Elohim, my father Abraham, and Elohim of the father of Yitzchak, Yahweh, who said to me, return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. I do not deserve the least of all the loving commitment and all of the truth which you have shown your servant, for I passed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become two groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and shall strike me and the mother with the children.
Okay, so now when we look at this, right, we're seeing a better picture of what's going on over here, right? We do see that element of fear over in Yaakov, but look how he's dealing with it, though. Right? He's dealing with it in terms of speaking to the one who's able to help him. Look what my brother done did. He done broke up my whole situation. He's put my whole life and family and everybody in jeopardy. You please, Most High, deliver me, he says over here. I beg you, please. Right? He redirected his situation. He fears what his brother is able to do, but he knows who he needs to deal with in order to be able to get around the whatever it is that Esau has for him. And so again, when we look at this, we have to be able to take these same measures and understanding that these physical situations that TBH that we create, these physical situations that we create, the Most High gives us the ability to go back and make those things right. Right? He gives us the ability to go back and fix those things that we broke in the first place.
Wow.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, their suckling camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 40 female donkeys and 10 fowls. He gave into the hand of his servants every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put some distance between drove and drove." And he commanded the first one, saying, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong, and where are you going, and whose are these in front of you, then you say, they are your servant Jacob's or Jacob's. It is a present sent to my master Esau, and he also is behind us." So he commanded the second and the third and all who followed the droves, saying, "Speak to Esau this same word. When you find him, you shall say also, look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, let me appease him with the present that goes before me, and after that see his face. He might accept me." And the present passed over him, but he himself spent the night in the camp.
Okay. All right.
And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Yabok, and he took them and set them over the stream, and set over what he had.
Okay,
Set
so when we look at this in its totality, we see what we have to be able to gain from this is the fact that he just kept on moving forward. He kept on going along with the plan, which was the plan was what the Moses said was that you need to go over into this land. He has to face, his what he created in his brother trying to kill him. Like he had a part to play in that whole situation, and he had to go back and deal with it. But the key is that he was able to go ahead back and do that with the power of the Almighty and through it. It was a real situation. There was real concern, to say the least, with what he was going through. I'm saying concern, but scriptures really calls it fear.
Yeah, fear.
Right? He was really frightened of what it was, because it's not as if, again, it's not as if you could just be so spiritual that physical things become non-physical, because they really are there. Like, you really got to deal with real situations. And just because you decided to start living a certain way don't mean that you are able to escape these situations. We think about, when we look at Yeshua in his life, there's several times where Yeshua in his life did like disappearing acts on people, where these people were just mobbing him so much, where maybe they wasn't trying to kill him, they just was like a bunch of people just overwhelming him, just trying to be healed, like, and he just really just had to like get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really had these physical things that was happening where he just had to just get out of the way. And there's many times when we look at Yeshua where he literally just has to go and just get prayed up. Like, he just has to go away and just recharge, and then come back. He goes off and then he comes back to be with the disciples and everything, right? And so what makes us think that we're just able to just be able to kind of circumvent these physical things? We can't. We can't escape these things. We have to be able to deal with these things head on. But the thing that we have to know, that as we're doing it, is that we have the spirit inside of us that helps us to be able to strive and live and succeed in spite of the fact that the odds may be against us. And so we have to be able to look at Yaakov. We have to be able to, that's your son. We have to be able to look at Yaakov and his example that he gives us when he shows us that, you know, in the midst of his situation, he's consulting with the Father. In the midst of his situation, he's asking for that protection to lead him through it and show him which way to go. He has genuine concern for his situation, but he knows that the Most High is able to move him through the situation. And so, you know, if anything, we're able to learn from that in that way and see that, you know, again, that the Most High is there with us as we move through this physical situation. Okay, so let's look at verse 24 now.
And Yaakov was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day.
Okay, so now we got this thing going on over here with Yaakov wrestling, right? So let's look at this thing where it says he wrestled with him until daybreak. That word there is abak. Abak. A primitive root, probably to float away as vapor. Interesting. When I think about wrestling, I don't necessarily think about the idea of floating away as vapor. Wrestling is kind of like, it's, if anything, it's like it's this heavy kind of weighted kind of a thing, like where you got like the weight of you and somebody else like combined. It's not like a light thing. Maybe boxing might be a light thing, right? But wrestling, grapple. How is this? Look, the word means to grapple, but it also means to be dust or to get dusty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I understand grappling and I understand in getting dirty because we getting dirty in the dirt.
Let's get dusty.
But but also, or if we think about the idea of we're wrestling and we're making dust because of our wrestling, right? But the word has the idea of floating away as a vapor. So it kind of combines these two things. It combines the physical part and kind of the metaphysical part. The physical part, how we're wrestling, but then the result of our wrestling too now, right? Where it's giving you these two aspects of it in the physical form, but this idea of floating away as vapor is the part that's kind of like is causing it to have this kind of duality involved in it. But when we think about what's going on over here, that duality is something that belongs there, I would say. So that word over there, it says, so the other word, it says, but use only as the denominative form of this word over here. So the connection, there's a connection between that other word, which means to grapple, and this word, which means light particles, small dust and powder. And so this word here, which abak is said, is pronounced exactly the same. There's slight differences in the vowel points, but this word that means light particles or small dust powder is the same word that means to grapple. And so again, we're talking about this, the fact that Yaakov goes and he was left alone in this place, and the man wrestled him until daybreak. It's translated as wrestled or grappled, but the word that it uses for wrestle or grapple is this word that kind of has this non-corporal aspect to it, as well as the corporal aspect. It has this spiritual aspect, these light particles and dust, powder, and also the physical aspect, which is really the theme of this whole situation that we're looking at, right? Where we have this whole chapter where it's kind of, we see physical things happening and we see spiritual things happening, and they're both combined, and they both need each other to exist. They're both real parts, right? The physical part and the spiritual part.
And this is the only place that this shows up in the Bible.
I believe it's the only place where it's
Wow.
ever used.
Only
It's not even like you could
24,
go and
25.
find the word
I was looking
used
for
in other places.
I was looking for another reference.
Yeah.
No, it's the only spot.
Yeah.
24, 25.
Yeah.
That's why this is so, like, this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible.
Right. And so it's interesting when we look at these scriptures, when we look at it and we get back into the language, it's forcing us to look at this in two ways. When we look at what's going on with these words that are being used, we talk about this whole messenger thing and angel and all of this, and this whole wrestle word is forcing us to look at this thing from two perspectives, physical and spiritual, and how they interact with each other. It's forcing us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a choice but to think about this thing from different perspectives, just based on just looking at the scriptures. What was you going to say?
This is chapter 32.
Oh,
Chapter 30, verse 8.
what did it say?
It says, when Rachel said, with great wrestling, I have wrestled with my sister and I have prevailed.
Is that the same word? That's the same word?
Mhm.
It's amazing.
The same Hebrew word?
Huh?
The same Hebrew word?
Yeah, the back.
Okay. Why ain't this telling me this?
But again, you think about that wrestling though, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like she was actually fighting with her sister.
Right.
When she had this kind of, it was a battle that was going on with feelings, right?
Actually,
And emotions.
No, it's not. It's a different word.
Mm-mm.
You know, I only found it twice. I'm like,
Yeah.
this app's messing up. If you found it somewhere else.
What's that word?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it could have been other places. I don't think it is in other places, but if it was in other places, it don't change the fact that the way that it's being used in this chapter, along with other words, this chapter itself is forcing us to look at things in a duality.
Mm-hmm.
This word is more like wrestling. It's a struggle.
So there's another word that could have been used that literally means only looking at it from a physical perspective that it didn't use. They could have used that word, but inspiration put this one in there. And so we have to be able to take note of that and be like, why is it putting that in there? Same reason why I talked about the messengers before. The same reason why it could have been angels that he sent, or it could have been men that he sent, or it could have been men with the spirit of angels, or any number of things. But the thing is that we have to acknowledge the fact that the spirit realm actually touches the physical realm. Okay, read now 25 to 28.
It says, and when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me. So he asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, Well, your name is no longer called Jacob, but Israel, uh, because you have striven with Elohim and with men and have overcome."
Okay, so real quick, somebody pull that up there. What word is that there?
Which one?
And the socket of Yaakov's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. That's probably the other word. That's probably the word from Jacob. I mean Rachel and Leah. What verse? What verse?
So
25.
or was out of joint.
The socket of it dislocated as he wrestled with them. As he wrestled.
So the wrestle part. Okay.
Does it say wrestled in the KJV?
Yeah.
So back.
Yeah.
What word is it?
That is.
Whistle one.
This
Yeah.
is 25. Yeah. That's the same as 24. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same. There's only two places. Yeah.
Okay, so when we look at this, we see that. So you just read the 28. I want to read to 32. I want to read to the end. Read to the end.
Okay. And Jacob asked him, saying, "Please let me know your name." And he said, "Why do you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel, and he lumped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh because in the sinew of the hip.
Okay, so we started off looking at this part of the story where it said that he wrestled a man. A man wrestled with him until daybreak. All through the night they wrestled, right? And he could not overcome the man. And the man did like a little finishing move on him, submission move on him, and popped his hip, right? Yaakov, he wasn't trying to tap. He ain't tap out, right? Mm-hmm. He just let his hip get broke instead of surrendering, right? I ain't letting you go. No, I ain't letting you go. Oh, you ain't? Right? So when we finish, Yaakov does what he always does when he encounters the Most High. He names the place where it happened, right? Just like before, we had earlier in the same chapter where we seen he had the encounter with all the angels. This is the army of Elohim over here. That's the name of this place, because I just encountered the Most High. Or back in 28, when he called that the house of Elohim, whenever he saw the ladder going up to the heavens. Over here, he calls this place Penuel, right? Face of the Most High, because he encountered the face of the Almighty. But they don't talk about him encountering anybody except for this man that he was wrestling. And so when we look at this now, this situation, at least according to Yaakov thought that he wrestled with the Most High and lived. That's what he thought happened over there. So people could say whatever they want to say, but I have to trust what Yaakov thought. He thought that he wrestled with the Most High and lived, right? I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. I made it. I made it through the battle. I lived. But what we see happening over there is what? This spiritual thing happening that got physical effects. Right? It's a spiritual thing. If we talk about him wrestling the Most High, wrestling Elohim, or this representative of Elohim that Yaakov is willing to say is Elohim. I can't even call it representative because Yaakov didn't call it that. He didn't say it was no angel of Elohim. He literally calls it that. He calls the place the face of Elohim because he saw the face of Elohim in what he was doing. And so, you know, it kind of caps off this whole situation when we look at this whole story, when we deal with the fact that, you know, these spiritual things got physical implications that's attached to them, right? These things in the spirit, it's not like we can separate the two. Especially, and then we especially see it when we look at this whole thing that they was actually doing, which was wrestling, which is dealing with this physical thing, but includes light particles. I guess if you was wrestling with light, wouldn't there be light particles as a result of it? Mm-hmm. Just like if you sitting up here wrestling with in the dirt, in the dust, you're gonna be kicking up dust all over the place. But if you wrestling with light, it's gonna be some light part. Why did he use that word? Why is that word in there? Light particles, light dust. That's the kind of dust they was making when they was wrestling all through the night, wrestling with the Most High. And so over here we see the changing of Yaakov's name to Yisrael, right? He goes from being the supplanter to being the one that grabs somebody's heel, trying to trip somebody up by grabbing their heel, to Yisrael, right? The one who strives with Elohim and prevails, right? And so even in that name change, we see when we think about kind of the, you know, how Yaakov progresses over time, we're able to look at his progression and kind of turn his progression into our situation, where we look and see where in the beginning, right, he's working towards righteousness as Yaakov. But he's doing it kind of in this kind of carnal way. He attains these physical, he attains these blessings through physical means, right? With the putting on the fur and making himself, you know, smell like his brother. He's doing these things to attain these blessings in the physical way. But then now when we talk about the idea of him wrestling this quote unquote man, who we know is based on his account of the story, that this man actually is Elohim, and where, you know, he goes from being you know, being Yaakov to Yisrael, talking about the fact that, you know, this is how. And so when we look at that kind of distinction between Yaakov and Yisrael, and where he goes from this kind of carnal existence into this, it's about to die out anyway. We're done with the slides anyway. We see where he goes from this kind of carnal existence into where he enters into this spiritual existence, and then we even see how it's even played out with how he's moving in terms of knowing that he got to deal with this situation that he created with his brother, and he's going forward with it through the leading of the Spirit. We'll see at the very end where he just sends off his people ahead of him, and he even just stays behind. Like, how do you even get to that point where y'all just go ahead on across? You know what I mean? And then I'm here. But that's his faith in what the Father said that he was going to do. And I'm saying that we even see that progression just in this chapter with what he just went on. And when we think about this part of it in terms of this wrestling, it was a wrestling match the whole time, wasn't it? It was a spiritual battle the whole time that he was going from A to B, with him in his mind knowing that he had to go and do this thing. But the Most High said, you got to go over there and deal with it the whole time, right? And so this is just a combination of what was already going on, this battle that was going on, him having this fight just the whole time, right? And so we see over here where the Most High marks him as being victorious. He passed the test, right? He passed the test. You now are Yisrael, right? And again, this, when you think about, it's funny, we was talking about fighting last week, right? When you think about the fight, your fight is only as good as whatever your training camp was, right? If you ain't trained for the fight, you ain't gonna be victorious in the fight. The fight is just a combination of all the things that you train for. I just the other week I looked at the thing. It was like on ESPN talking about Buster Douglas.
Oh shoot!
Right when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so nobody even heard of this guy, right? But his preparation was like top notch for this particular fight. And then like his mom dies like a couple weeks beforehand. He got all this motivation beforehand, where Tyson's the exact opposite. He's feeling himself. He got all of this. He's not even thinking about what's going on. He never gave him a chance, right? His training camp was it wasn't nothing.
Plus the issues of life was out here.
Robin Givens and all of that. Anyway, I'm saying all that just to say the training showed you, it showed through in the fight. And so when we look over here, it's the same situation when we see the training, the buildup was him knowing that he had to go through this thing, but at any point he could have just turned around. But he just kept on going forward, right? Until the place where we see right before the actual fight, where he was at the place where he wanted for his people to be behind. But then now at the very end, he's like, y'all go ahead across, leaving him behind. So it's like he don't even care about all of the things that he was trying to hold on to. Y'all just go ahead and put it in the Most High's hands. And then we see what happens over here with the fight. And so, I'm saying that we have to kind of move in this same type of a way. We have to move in this same situation where we're constantly moving forward, not allowing, by the way, the things that we created, not allowing those things to take us off of our focus, always allowing Most High to actually be Elohim, and always trusting him in his ability to move us forward, because he said he was going to move us forward in the first place. He said he was going to get Yaakov from A to B. He said he was going to deliver you and be there for you no matter what. He said that when we look in John, he talks about the sheep being, what's the verse where he talks about the sheep being in his hand and no man can pluck them out? Is that John chapter 10 or something like that? We won't find that verse. Because that's where we are as followers of Messiah, as declaring him our master and walking in not our strength but his strength. He said that his yoke is easy. Not, and by the way, not because it's easy, but because he carries the weight.
John chapter 10.
What it say?
And I will give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand.
Okay, read that again, please.
And I will give unto them eternal
Hold on, what's the
life.
verse before that? Sorry. Both verses.
Wait a minute now. My sheep hear my voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I know them. And they
This is,
know.
wait, I'm so sorry, John chapter what?
John chapter 10, verse 27 through 29.
Okay, thank you.
My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand.
Okay, so that is very good. It's empowering though, isn't it? We just found out all kinds of things. We found out that as his sheep, we hear his voice. We found out because of the fact that we hear his voice and we walk according to that voice, that we have a certain inheritance. And being people who have a particular inheritance, we have access to some special safeties at our disposal, these ministering spirits that we're able to through the power of the Most High be able to send them out and prepare situations for our arrival. Over here, when we look in this in John chapter 10, it's talking about the fact that no man can pluck us out of his hand, his sheep, those ones that are, but we're able to understand why that is though, because he provides all of these provisions for us to be able to be maintained. He makes a way for us to be able to move through the situation. Where he's not just saying this thing, well, no man can pluck you out of my hand, just abstractly. We know concretely why that is, and because of all of the tools and things that are set in place for us to be able to move through this physical realm. And so we have to be able to get to the place where we know who it is that we're fighting. You quoted the verse. What's that in Ephesians? Where it's talking about the wrestle not against flesh and blood. Is that Ephesians? Let's end with that verse right there. That's
For we wrestle not.
hold on, what verse is it?
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12.
Yeah.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
We have to understand that that is a reality that goes over and spills over into every aspect of our lives. Even though we got these physical things that we're facing, guess what? We're not facing those things. We're facing the spirit that's behind those things. And so even though we're sitting up here going up against these physical things that could cause us physical harm, we got to understand that behind those things are spiritual forces. And so we fight these spiritual forces with our spiritual forces. And we saw an example of that with Yaakov, and that's on the other side of Yeshua. So how much more so on this side of Yeshua, are we equipped with these spiritual arsenals, right? Okay, so that being said, does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or comments about any of those things that we talked about?
Yeah. Because I see a lot of us today, like Jacob, before he became Israel, you know. And it just hit me because, you know, I'm always writing little rhymes and stuff, but it makes meaningful sense. As I was saying, that Jacob was the name of Israel that wrestled Yah and passed the test. He was no wimp. Ain't nothing changed but his name and a limp. And we being Israelites applies to us too. We must not slip. Because we must stay focused on Yah and stay equipped. So it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing, man. When we be transformed and come back to Yah in the marriage, you know, we must stay equipped. We must too pass the test. The tests will be given to us. Just like the progenitor of our name, Jacob. He wrestled with Yah, passed the test, and ain't nothing changed but his name and his lip. You know? So we too must go through a lot of atrocities and things of that nature. But when we stay equipped, we will pass the test.
Yeah. Anybody else? And so, you know, I talked about this before. I'm not going to get into it right now, but we just closing. When we think about the process of when we think about the process of Jacob becoming Israel, you know, the thing that we look at when we look at Israel and Jacob throughout Scripture is interchangeable. Jacob and Israel goes back and forth, but there's only one person in the Scripture where it's like that. I'm not even gonna say for the most part. In other instances, when the Most High changes somebody's name, that's what their name is from that point and forevermore. But when we look at Jacob and we look at where, and he even says it in the same way, in terms of your name will no longer be Jacob, but now Israel. But all throughout Scripture, over and over again, even within verses of each other, where Israel is referred to as Jacob or Israel. And it helps for us to see where you know, there is kind of this back and forth kind of a battle thing that we go through, this process of going from point to point. And then there's another name that Israel receives that kind of is that epitome level where you moving from that back and forth of striving, of fighting, because that's what we're doing. We're fighting against the Most High. We're fighting against him, right? And but in kind of like in the negative sense, right? We're fighting against what his will is for our situation, and we're like not trying to give him all that belongs to him. But what the new covenant wants to do in us is to take it from our strength and ability, because at the end of the day, Yaakov did what he did in his strength. But the power and strength that we receive is the power and strength that we receive through the Ruach HaKodesh, right? So it's another level. And so we're supposed to get to the place where we're not going back and forth and being spiritual, carnal, Yisrael, Yaakov, Yisrael, Yaakov. Right? We're supposed to get to the place where we're walking in the spirit, not, you know, back and forth or whatever suits us for, you know, whatever situation that we're in. And so we saw a glimpse in chapter 32 where Yaakov was moving forward in his progression, and he passed that particular test. But in this life, we're kind of like in a loop of tests where that's all, we just go from one thing to the next, right? And any one of them things could take us out of here if we're not walking in the spirit. But we learn, if we walk in the spirit, we're able to go and be unwavering. We're able to go and not be plucked out of his hand when we walk as the sheep and hear his voice and do as he said to do. So we want to just kind of closing up. We want to just be encouraged to be Yisrael in this earth, and not Israel and Jacob, right? But we want to prevail. We want to be, we want to walk in the spirit and allow our spiritual strength to move us through successfully and victoriously in this physical realm that we're in, and not allow the things in this realm to dictate who we are, but only allow the Most High to dictate who we are, and act accordingly. Okay, so on that note, we will say, on that note, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Mr.
And
Bishop Buck.
y'all willing, we will return next Shabbat.